Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be giving a couple tips and things that I would like to express to you guys or reveal to you guys that I wish I'd known before I started Wuthering Waves. There's a couple things that I had to theory craft or kind of talk and research with other content creators and theory crafters about efficiency and what's worthwhile. Don't make these mistakes that I did though, guys. Let's get into it. So the first thing on the docket to talk about is this Ranger series weapon supply chest that is both important because weapons give you a lot of stats, but also because it's something that's given to you literally as soon as you start the game. So let's break down which one is worth it, which one's not, what you may find a use for each of these for in a really short and concise manner. The first choice here is Command of Conviction. It's a sword. There are a lot of free sword characters that you get in the game. This one has flat attack and attack percent on its stats, which makes it pretty versatile when you also take into consideration the effect, which says when intro skill is released, increases attack by 15%, lasting for 15 seconds. Most characters in the game really appreciate something like this because they want attack, they use their intro skills, but this is definitely usable on characters like the Rover, Dan Jin, you name it. If you're a sword user and you want to deal damage, this is a solid option all around the board. Dauntless Evernight is kind of weird because this really only feels best on someone like Tao Chi, since it gives you attack and defense and you're trying to become bulky. This only really makes sense on one character, and that's the only tank kind of character in the game who's Tao Chi. Not worth it. Let's move along. Jinzo Keeper is quite weird. It's a rectifier. It does also give you attack and attack percent. If you notice, this is kind of similar to the sword option in giving you an attack percent increase, but it also increases your HP. In all honesty, it doesn't feel like this weapon actually has a perfect slotted character. At best, maybe it's one of the rectifier users like Encore or a future character that could maybe come out, but as it stands right now, there's no perfect fit for this weapon, and ultimately, it's likely better that you'll find a better rectifier in the future, or you'll find something off the battle pass, or you summon it off of the banner. Whichever it is, whatever the case, this one doesn't feel that good. Undying Flame is fine for most pistol users if you're just trying to find a weapon, and ultimately, this is also a weapon that has attack percent and flat attack on it. Now, to be clear, the Undying Flame could be used on a lot of characters, being that the effect of this weapon is introduced anytime that your intro skill is released, increasing the damage of one of your skills, whether that's resonant skill or your overall attack, like any of the other buffs that we talked about earlier, does yield in some value, but, and as I'll mention later, this isn't something that you'll probably need a whole lot of, and in most cases, you likely aren't going to use so many pistols or have so many pistol involving teams that even picking this feels a little bit compared to getting something like a sword, of which there are 4 or 3 that you get at the beginning of the game for free, and if you want to use those characters, most of which were good, it feels like opting for something like a pistol doesn't really make sense. And finally, we have the gauntlets, and I think this is likely going to be the most underrated of all the choices that you could pick when it comes to this. Ultimately, not many characters consider gauntlet characters to be that good. The main characters you could think that may find use out of this is maybe someone like Yuan Wu, or maybe someone like Ling Yang. And while I do think that this is something that could be definitely good for Yuan Wu, considering you get 13.6% defense, honestly, deciding to use your 4-star selector on Yuan Wu, who you will likely be able to run anything on just because he's supposed to be a defensive tank and you can kind of use budget gear to make him work, it doesn't feel like the Amity Accord is something that you necessarily need compared to the swords, which of course I'll go into a little bit further when I'm describing what I think most people should take. Now, I know I said that part was going to be pretty quick and concise, but in case you wanted the numbers, thank you to I'm Rivnus, because this is, again, his sheet, and I definitely, despite the game coming out, don't have numbers like this exactly on hand, but you can kind of go through and see the exact value of each of the 4 stars. But for the sake of argument, take a look at how much value and DPS that you get out of a character having Commando of Conviction. As you can see here, this is basically the best in slot for pretty much any character when you take a look at Rover, Sanhua, and Danjin. And by comparison, if you just take a look at, say, the Broadblade that you have access to, you see that it's not even within the top 4 potential weapons that you could use on someone like Jian. Again, if you want to do the math and you want to compare and look through the stat sheet here, go down and see exactly how much value you gain and lose. However, in my opinion, although you could maybe foresee that in the future, the Jinzo Keeper may have a better use or may serve a better purpose there, as of right now and on release, it doesn't feel very good to use any of these weapons except for the sword, unless if you're a diehard for one of the other weapons. At the end of the day, you could choose what you want, but if you're going by logic and kind of what's currently out, the sword is the answer. Now let's talk about EXP for a little bit, because although I did make a video prior talking about how to level up quickly, there are a couple things that I should have touched on more, and I wish I had included a little bit to kind of introduce how to get further into the story and how to get a higher Union EXP level. If you haven't seen already, there are certain quests or certain things in the game that are locked behind level, as you can see with Unlocked at Union level 25 and waiting for certain things. But before we actually go into what these things unlock, the way that you can actually unlock higher union levels is actually by a number of ways. Now, I already mentioned that doing story gives you a lot of EXP, but something that I wish I'd touched on a little bit earlier is that a lot of the quests down here, the side quests, may have some union EXP baked in. Now, in some cases, you get things like 20 or none at all, and it's not really worth it. However, as you can see, some of these, like the Silver-Haired Echo, which, by the way, is also an event that you should be doing because it gives you additional astrites, you get 150 Union EXP too. There are plenty of side quests that I don't have listed out here. I think they're literally completed or something, and I can't find them. But, long story short, doing a lot of the side quests or finding which of these side quests give you EXP specifically for your union will help you unlock a lot of things, including the new main quests, co-op, which you unlock at 22, and things like Tower of Adversity or any other union or currently locked pieces of content that we have right now. Now, back on the topic of what it unlocks, I do want to describe that you do get a number of rewards from additional quests that aren't just the main storyline that progresses through Wuthering Waves. And in this case, you could see that you get things like Advanced Energy Cores, Resonance Potions, everything that you would normally get, but then you also get stuff like Vigor Tablets Recipe, a Morning Ikes, which is an additional echo, and also more Union EXP alongside Astrite. Now, the reason why doing these exploration quests specifically is really nice is because in some cases, these actually remove the hazards from certain areas. If you haven't already adventured to them already, there are a couple of areas, including something like the Sea of Flames, that have hazards, and another location right here, which is the Poison Swamp. But if you're encountering hazards and you're struggling to try to stay alive while there's like a burn on you or a poison, that's really annoying. So these are just a couple of reasons why getting EXP and why EXP farming in general can be helpful. And beyond anything else, I think it's really nice to start unlocking co-op so you can start joining other people or joining your friends, clearing out echoes, getting more value. Again, just because, simply put, playing together means that you get more echoes to kill, also helps you kill certain world bosses, lets you do your dailies faster, etc, etc. But another thing that you could do if you are really desperate for EXP is making sure that you've killed all the bosses once. Now, if you haven't seen it already, there are certain bosses where if you clear, you gain 500 Union EXP flat the second that you beat it for the first time. Now, again, I likely don't have to tell you guys how important that is, but given that I gained 1/5 of my bar at level 24 just for killing one of the bosses, this is really impactful. And now, of course, you could use stuff like your stamina and gain EXP off of, but something that you also might have missed or forgotten after day 1 is completing these milestones to also give you Union EXP. Now, to be clear, I was definitely aware of this day 1 and I saw some of the stages, but I did not realize or recall that going through and collecting each of these yields something like 900 to like 1,000 Union EXP each time that you clear a state. And now for those of you that are stuck in between stages, you're trying to wait to unlock new parts of the story, etc., this is a very big deal. And in that case, farming out Union EXP is super important. So make sure to do this, do all the tasks as it describes, and level up fast now. Now, on the topic of unlocks, this is probably something that you also missed or you may be curious about in terms of pacing your account, and probably want to hit some of these milestones or aim for these as you're progressing through the game, as things to look forward to or as goals to achieve or hit as you're clearing through the story. But the first one that you'll encounter is that number 1, if you're curious about dailies, which by the way all reset at 5 AM EST if you're on the North American server. Dailies unlock around level 7, however I think it's specifically tied to the story. Just keep doing the main story and you'll unlock the dailies. But on that topic, I also want to talk about the stamina or stamina uses and when you unlock them. And the answer is that there's actually a lot of quests specifically in here under the tutorial quest challenge that unlock the weekly content for you. I myself haven't even gotten to the elusive realms, but as you can see right here, if you complete this activity or if you track this activity, it takes you to the exact location for the weekly challenge, which is really nice, but you have to do this before you actually unlock it. And now as a reminder, because I know people are probably going to be skipping around in the video, the biggest thing that I think people should be looking to kind of pace their account and kind of get on track for when it comes to unlocking things is that within the first couple days, maybe even a week worth of playing the game, you should ideally try to be hitting level 22 so that you can unlock co-op, start doing activities together, whether that's bosses or farming echoes. But also, as a reminder, in the past closed betas, the original level 2 unlock co-op was 30. That was nerfed to 22, but beyond everything else, it does feel like within the first 3 to 5 days, even if you're playing a bit more casual, a bit more serious than just logging on doing 5 minutes worth of content, but decently casual, within 5 to maybe 7 days of starting off the game, you should be able to unlock co-op, which again, I know is a snail's pace, but is probably going to be what people that just play an hour or two after work are likely going to achieve or hit if they're taking Wuthering Waves at a casual pace. And now on the topic of stamina, something that I wish I had known, or something that I'd wish I'd done a little bit more research into, is what you should be doing with your wave plates and what you should probably be prioritizing. To be clear, I do have the battle pass, which I wanted to purchase just to show you guys what was exactly going to be on it, but let's not cope. It is a little bit nice to have the battle pass. You get rewards, and there's always the additional bottom resource that you gain access to. There are a couple different ways that people are suggesting to use their wave plates right now, and it's kind of boiled down to two things. The first is to use your wave plates on things that allow you to ascend your characters, because in all honesty, you aren't going to have any of these to start the game off, and you are going to want to get your characters as high level as possible, simply because look at how much stat you gain. It increases to your base stats, it gives you more HP, it gives you defense, and in some cases you just want more life or a bit more damage when you're clearing out echoes. However, on the other hand, there are some that suggest that you farm out EXP specifically, and if you took a look at what I was suggesting earlier, or what you could actually see through the guidebook, you actually gain access to the simulation training quite early on, and what you're able to do is dump all of your EXP into something like resonance potions or weapon EXP with energy cores, depending on what you're missing. Now, I did just say depending on what you're missing, but based on the way that I was playing, doing a little bit of exploration, but primarily trying to go through the story to try and get to co-op. But what I noticed was that while going through the story, I had virtually no real issues with EXP or with leveling and things of that nature. I did end up committing to upgrading my rover initially alongside my Yang Yang, but I didn't commit too much just because the off-field supports didn't really feel like they were super impactful. But in that being said, so long as I had the MC and he was leveled, it felt like he did a lot of damage. And in that case, it didn't really feel like I needed any real EXP. I leveled up the character once, and either I got the rewards through some of the early battle pass exchanges, I got some EXP from the battle pass, or I got it from stuff like the story. Now again, I won't sit here and pretend that getting the battle pass doesn't influence my total resource count, because that's absolutely true, but whether or not you should be completely committing all of your early EXP to upgrading your resonators levels, as opposed to getting things like their awakening materials, in my opinion, is likely not worth it. As you see right now, something that I do feel like I need to commit to more is literally just getting more drops from world bosses. Right now, if I want to be the best Danjin main that there ever was, I need to kill Crownless 6 more times and pray that I get more Strife Tacit cores. Now again, to be clear, there are also things that you get in the overworld when it comes to ascensions, and these are not quite as difficult to get. However, if you are running something like a hybrid or the secondary character that supports your team, you're also going to have to ascend them in some cases. Now, there have been arguments as well about whether or not you even need to put levels or EXP into some of your supports like Verena. However, I noticed that I wasn't actually able to not have Verena on screen entirely, and although some people were saying that you could just have her come on and then immediately just use her skills or her heals and get off, I felt that I was actually in need of getting her intro or outro effect off more, and when she was literally level 1, I would just get one tapped and I would just die, which is okay, maybe skill issue, but I still think that putting a little bit of love or getting a little bit of EXP put away for the Verena, getting her to maybe level 20 is quite worth it, and it doesn't really cost anything, especially if you take a look at the actual cost to upgrade a character. It's literally like 40,000 EXP to get to max, which is by no means a backbreaker. Long story short though, if you were to kind of walk through and see which of these activities were worth doing for stamina, I would honestly say that though you may need a little bit of resonator and or weapon EXP early, I do find that no matter what, you will end up having to farm something like the awakenings at least a little bit so that you can get a couple of your characters awakened to probably resonator level 50, which is where I'm currently capped, because the next level or next set of levels requires my world to be level 40. Requires my account level to be 40 so I can achieve the next world level, Soul 3 phase level. But otherwise, you will definitely also have to farm the forgery challenges. Right now, I am in the process of upgrading some of my weapons, and inert metallic drip, things of this nature, are what I currently need to upgrade things like my sword. Simulation challenge at the top if you don't have max level characters, followed by boss challenges, and once you're done with all the boss challenges, you get forgery. That's my priority when it comes to using stamina right now. Thanks again everyone for watching though. Sincerely, this was a video that I really wished I had watched myself, because it feels like there were a lot of mistakes and hoops and bounds that it felt like I encountered while trying to get to the end game or trying to finish the story and get to play with my friends. But you guys have all been really terrific, have been really supportive, and I appreciate it so much. I hope you guys learned something today, and if you did, feel free to leave me a comment about what it was or what you think about this video. And as always guys, make sure to like, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy. My sleep schedule is ruined. Good night.